Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
Hey, yo, it's back and forth between President Trump and Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa. So Donald Trump say that he's gonna cut all the aid, okay, to South African because South African are treating bad white South Africans. They're taking out their lands, okay? And then the president of South Africa clap back and says to Donald Trump, hey, you know what happened in South Africa, it will stay in South Africa, and South Africa is our land, okay? And he said, you know what, you can keep all your aid, we don't even need it, but you'll not tell us what to do. And he even say, you know what, America used to have Indian, but you guys kick out Indians, and today you want to tell us what to do? It will never happen. Yo, South African.
How's it? So I'm not sure if you've seen, but Old MacDonald from the United States of Anarchy has decided to add South Africa as a stop on his world tour. So we are now top of mind for Donald Trump. For what good reason? I'm about to explain to you. So he wakes up whenever he woke up and decides to say, South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes, the white kind, Donald, of people very badly. So this obviously has to do with the land expropriation bill that we signed a couple of weeks ago. A massive human rights violation, he says, is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. Of course, the United States will act, you know, being that the United States are champions of freedom, democracy, and liberty, and not funders of genocides and oppressors of people in the third world. No, seemingly the rest of the world has gotten it wrong, guys. Americans are breakers of chains, guys. They are the poster children for equality and fairness.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren
and I'm Maureen.
Right, so guys, in today's episode you're gonna be featuring South Africans who are reacting to Donald Trump and they're clapping back, okay? So Donald Trump decided to, you know, meddle in South African affairs, and himself, he considers white South Africans as being mistreated by the South African government, and for this reason, he's so just and fair, he has stopped all aids that America was giving to South Africa. Yeah, right. So in today's episode, we're going to be listening to the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. They said it's Ramaphosa. And we're also going to be listening to the opposition leader, Julius Malema's statement. And along with it, we'll be listening to South Africans and what they think about Donald Trump's statement. Right. My 2 cents, if you ask me, guys, I would say Trump, let's just say he doesn't care about South Africa or even where the country is located, okay? Right. I feel like he only has a neck in the game and he's pissing off South Africans because he has a particular body. This body helped him win elections, and because the body is such a child, he was born in South Africa and then migrated to America. Now they feel like South Africa is their playing field. I'll just leave it at that. Right. But on this one, I think I will have to go with a lot of South Africans who are disagreeing with Trump, and I do feel like this situation might be a blessing in disguise for South Africans, because now that Trump has stopped foreign aid from going to South Africa, South Africans are willing, they're ready and willing to figure it out themselves, and once South Africa has figured it out, they won't need America anymore. Guys, have you heard of that song, She Doesn't Need Me Anymore? Anyway, we don't want to talk a lot. Let's just watch this video and then we come back and talk about it. Let us know what you think about this video in the comment section, and then we come back and talk about it. Consider subscribing if it's your first time here, right? Let's watch.
It's a hot day in South Africa, and Donald Trump has just come on air to say that he has seen the terrible things going on in South Africa. I live here, and I haven't really seen the terrible things he speaks about. I'm continually amazed at the disinformation that this man sends. I'm amazed that anyone would believe him. We in South Africa are laughing. We honestly are. But what worries me most is that you Americans seem to believe him. Even statements about your own country, you believe that he's doing the best thing. I feel very sad for you and very down. I hope you can get this man out one way or the other. Goodbye.
This issue that Donald Trump fears so much, we offer this question of the land. I don't know what Donald Trump has to do with South African land, because he's never been here. And he must keep his America, we will keep our South Africa. That is what he must do. South Africa is our land. South Africa belongs to all the people who live here in South Africa. It does not belong to Donald Trump. He can keep his America. And Ene is even worse. He's even worse. When I meet him, I will tell him. I will say, you, Donald Trump, you are even worse, because your forebears came to America. They found the native, the indigenous Americans. They wiped them out. They killed nearly all of them. Rine, we are living as a nation, and black and white, we are going to find solutions for our land question. So Donald Trump must leave us alone. He must leave us alone, Maori. When we were facing apartheid, when we were facing oppression, he was not here. He did not fight side by side with us. And we were able, on our own, yes, with support of progressive forces in the world, to resolve the apartheid question. As far as I recall, Donald Trump was not around the negotiating table when we negotiated the end of apartheid. So stick around there in the White House. We will do our business here, and we will find solutions for our problem. So stay out of our issues, and we will not get involved in your issues in America. You have your own problems. Leave us alone.
A statement by Donald Trump is offensive and undermines our sovereignty, and is a reminder that our reliance on foreign aid and foreign direct investment surrenders us to the will of imperialists who use money to dictate the economic and policy direction of Africa. We want to make it categorically clear to the President of the USA that we are going to expropriate land without compensation and pursue legislative measures to do so, and no threat will stop us. His misinterpretation of the Expropriation Act, which is a mild and cosmetic intervention, is an assessment of a measure that is going to be pursued through the amendment of our Constitution as South Africans, and there is nothing he can do to undermine our independence. The EFF reiterates its position that we must build state capacity, build a strong agricultural and industrial nation which will not depend on the West, and intensify trade relations with progressive nations such as China, Russia, and nations within BRICS who do not use foreign policy as an instrument to impose their will or bully other nations into submission.
Leadership in South Africa, they are doing some terrible things. They are taking away lands. They are in fact doing more than that. What Donald Trump meant is that justice is not meant for the black people in the world we live. Democracy is not for the black people in the world we live. But imagine your lands were taken unjustly during the apartheid in South Africa. Black folks were unalived. Black folks, were chased away from their lands, forcefully taken away from them. Now the South African president wants to make things right, to give justice back to the black people. Donald Trump is saying that they are doing something terrible, which means that justice is not meant for the black people. My question to all of you is that if someone did this thing to the Americans in the United States, will Donald Trump say that the United States is doing something terrible, or will he say that no, we stand for justice, we need our lands back because we are the real owners? This is the hypocrisy that some of these leaders As long as you are a black person, regardless of whether you are from the United States, whether you are from Africa or other parts of the world, justice is not meant for the black people.
He goes on to say, I will be cutting off all future funding to South Africa until a full investigation of the situation has been completed. So what was our response? I'm going to get to the land expropriation thing, but what was our response? Auntie Cyril. Because Cyril said, I'm going to meet your sass with sass today. He says the US remains a key strategic, political, and trade partner for South Africa. In other words, do you enjoy that citrus? Is it sweet? How's about that wine? Is it going down smoothly? And the platinum? The platinum that holds up your industry, do you like it? Because if you like it, then you better play nice. Because I need you and you need me. And in fact, on the topic of I need you, with the exception of PEPFAR aid, which constitutes 17% of South Africa's HIV and AIDS program, there is no other funding that is received by South Africa from the US. In other words, your money is not long enough for you to be making these threats, sir. Okay, what you give me is but a drop in the GDP. And yes, we will feel it. But I think it's also time as South Africans that we start to shift away from this codependency that can be used to threaten the rand, the country itself, trade agreements, etc., etc. I have more. So then Ronald Lamola, who is our Minister of International Relations, took over from the wonderful Naledi Pandor, says, it's cool when you do it, but it's a problem when I do it. How does that work? Because you, United States, also have a land expropriation bill. So does Britain. So does the rest of the world. This is a common thing that states use for the common good when they need to achieve the common good for the people. In this case, it might be reparations, but not necessarily so. So essentially, America decided we were what they needed to, I don't know, piss off today. Apparently they haven't pissed off Canada enough, not Mexico, the EU, not China. They said, oh, there's a little country in Africa that also needs to feel the smoke. But you will not be feeling the smoke because you have completely misunderstood what the land expropriation bill is, right? So everyone has always made this assumption that this bill, once signed, means that Bab Cyril will be outside of Mariki and Johannesgate to take their land forcefully. But that's not the case. This article that I read today even said that awarding little or no compensation, so should the government decide to take your land without compensation, will have to be justified, and government will have to show in the court of law why it is so. So I cannot just pull up and take your mansion in Bryanston, okay, your 4-room in Brakpan, Mariki. I cannot do that. That is unconstitutional. And what do we know about this country? We are many things. We are many things, but the law is very clear on what you can and cannot do. So I'm not sure why. In fact, I know exactly why. I forgot one part. Then on top of that, AfriForum goes and betrays us, unsurprisingly, and affirms Donald Trump and says, furthermore, thank you, Mr. Trump. Please, can you also come into our country, investigate and prosecute ANC leaders and other political figures? Now, I'm not sure how democracy, or rather, I don't know how politics work in Orania, but in South that smells and looks a lot like treason. And I know those brews haven't gone to school for politics. I know iskolos ngabe. But you can't just go ask another state leader of his own sovereign state to come and meddle in our business. That would be breaking all the foundations of our engagement as a globalized society. Now, I know America likes to do it undercover, and maybe I'm thinking AfriForum is hoping for the same, but I'm here to remind them, and so should you, that not in our South Africa. Maybe in yours, but not this one. Not this one that's tasted 30 years of freedom. Try it. Get somebody else to do it. Try it elsewhere. But it won't happen here whilst we're in charge. And we will never allow you to be in charge, because every single time you show us who you really are, we will win the Rugby World Cup. We will all be together. Hey, Ubuntu. And then the moment they get even a gap They want to remind us of their racism, of their oppression, and why they will never be leaders of this country. Thank you.
Let's talk about Trump and South Africa. If you've been watching any news at all coming out of the Trump administration, you will know that Donald Trump has made some statements about South Africa, and I'd like to talk a little bit about what they are. But before we talk about what he did yesterday, I want to take you guys all the way to 2018, because this is not the first time Donald Trump has done this. As you can see, August 23rd of 2018, Trump tweeted, "I've asked Secretary of State, Secretary Pompeo, to closely study the South African land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers," and he quotes Tucker Carlson and tags Fox News as well. Now, why would he quote Tucker Carlson? So around the time that Trump took office, a group called AfriForum went to the US to talk to Tucker Carlson, Fox News, and a bunch of other organizations to tell them that apparently there was a white G-side happening in South Africa. And this actually became a very big talking point for Tucker Carlson, for right-wing media and pundits. They were talking about it on YouTube and all of these things. And in fact, it got such widespread belief, this idea of a white G-side, that even Australia started talking about potentially having a special visa for white South Africans. Now, there is no white G-side, and I'll show you some numbers to show you why I say that before we continue with the rest of the story. If you take a look at these numbers, I'm going to put them above me, that talk about farm murders in the country. You'll see that between 2003 and 2018, you did see an increase in the numbers of these unalivings. But if you look at these numbers, these are just general crime statistics looking at contact crime, unalivings, robbery with aggravated circumstances, and burglary at residential premises. And as you can see, the numbers of these are also increasing, and this particular thing just looks at the difference between 2018 and 2019. And I'm showing you all of this to say that violent crime in South Africa has been on the rise for the better part of 2 decades, right? If not longer. And so the rise in unalivings on farms are in tandem with the rise of general crime, like violent crime in the country, and unalivings all over the country. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, there are, by number, very few unalivings on farms comparatively to just general unalivings in the country. This means we can see just from the numbers that there is no white G-side. There is, though, an issue with unalivings on farms, but this is not a racial matter necessarily, because if we look at the numbers that are given to us by our government at how many unalivings happen on farms, you'll see that actually those numbers include everyone who's unalived on a farm, so no matter the race and what position they hold within the farm. So yes, a lot of farms are still run by white people in South Africa, and the workers are still predominantly people of color and black South Africans, and so you have that power dynamic at play. But if you Google farm unalivings in South Africa right now, you will see that there are white farmers that are on trial for unaliving people on farms, as well as people of other races, people of color and black people that are also on trial for unaliving on farms. So there is no white G-side. Trump's back and forth with South Africa culminated in him hiring or appointing a lady called Lana Marks as the ambassador to South Africa. And the scandal, or that was around this, was the fact that she, even though she was born in South Africa and had lived, I think, in the US for something like 40 years, had no diplomatic experience, and in fact was the owner of a handbag design company of some sort. And so there was, I remember, a lot of chatter about that. And it's also important to remember that, yes, there was a lot of things that happened, but there was no major action that came. I don't know what came off of the investigation by Mike Pompeo. If there even was an investigation that took place, we never actually got a response to this. There were never any sanctions put against South Africa. There was nothing that happened. And then obviously he left office. Now this brings us to present day, where yesterday he said a couple of things. Trump has come out saying that South Africa is confiscating land and treating a certain class of people, that's a direct quote, badly, right? And he doesn't elaborate or provide any evidence about what he's talking about. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "I'll be cutting off all future funding to South Africa until a full investigation of the situation has been completed." I think my confusion lies in the fact that Trump had already announced that he'll be ending funding for most countries in the world. I think everything but 2 countries is what I read. So there was no funding going to South Africa anyway before this particular announcement. But maybe it's other forms of funding, or maybe he's saying once they reestablish their funding, South Africa won't be included. I'm not sure what exactly he means. The president of South Africa did respond, and I'll put video clips of all of these things in the caption, so you can watch them if you want. And the Department of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa said that we trust President Trump's advisors will make use of the investigative period to attain a thorough understanding of South Africa's policies within the framework of a constitutional democracy. It may become clear that our Expropriation Act is not exceptional, as many countries have similar legislation. We look forward to engaging with the Trump administration over our land reform policy and issues of bilateral interest. We are certain that out of those engagements, we will share a better and common understanding over these matters. South Africa is a constitutional democracy that is deeply rooted in the rule of law, justice, and equality. And according to President Cyril Ramaphosa, except for the US aid program for AIDS relief, PEPFAR, PEPFAR, there is no other significant funding provided to South Africa by the US. Of course, Elon Musk had to, jump in and said, why do they have openly racist ownership laws? And I guess that means we should discuss what the hell this expropriation bill is that's got everybody in a tizzy. So the president of South Africa in January of 2025 signed the expropriation bill into law. And this bill aims to repeal the pre-democratic Expropriation Act of 1975 and sets out how organs of the state may expropriate land in the public interest for various reasons. This bill has actually been in process for about 5 years in South Africa. There were public consultations, there was parliamentary deliberation, and the current administration says that this bill aligns with the legislation on expropriation that is in the South African Constitution. And Section 25 of the Constitution recognizes that expropriation is an essential mechanism for the state to acquire someone's property for a public purpose or in the public interest, subject to just and equitable compensation being paid. So that's the differing, that's where people stumble, right? With compensation or without compensation. Now, South Africa still continues to use this Expropriation Act of 1975, which was written and put into place before the Section 25 of the Constitution. So you had the Expropriation Act of 75, then the Constitution, then the new law that's been put into place. And this new law is trying to get rid of what was established during the apartheid era before the Constitution was put into place. And it also states that land cannot be expropriated arbitrarily, that before land can be expropriated without compensation, that the body has to try and reach an agreement with the owners of the land first. So it's not just roughshod expropriation. There's actually has to be, as defined by this law, common ground reached with the owners of the land before it's expropriated, or at least the body needs to try and get to that point. And if it can't, and it has proven that it can't, then it can expropriate the land. So, of course, this is round 2 of the issues that we had with Donald Trump in his first run as president. And, of course, he might go ahead and do sanctions like the AfriForum is calling for and other things, right? This could escalate more than it did the first time. But I think that he always uses South Africa, and I always think it's very interesting that South Africa is the point at which a lot of this happens. And we need to ask ourselves why, right? Considering that we are part of things that aren't Western-centric like BRICS, or even the things that we're doing in places like the ICJ may also play into why maybe the country's always given this extra intensive eye. But, I guess we'll see what happens.
Okay, so my biggest question is to our South African audience. I know there's quite a few of you in this platform, right? What is this situation that Donald Trump is saying? Because he is being very vague very vague about the problems that are in South Africa. And if you want to stop aid, just stop aid. Yeah, but stop using white South Africa, black South Africa to bring that problem in South Africa. Because yeah, they have their own issues, but how can black South Africa... Anyway, guys, some white South Africans took their legs to America to say that they're being unfairly treated, their farms are being taken away. I mean, it's not in a bad way, but to begin with, your ancestors never owned those lands. You snatched them and then put up laws to say that those lands were yours. Can we just say, even Nelson Mandela did the Dutch a favor by allowing the descendants to keep on staying in South Africa, you know, and they could very well trace their lineage back to Dutch land, and they could as well get on those boats and find themselves back in their grandfather's lands again. They chose to stay in South Africa. But remember, the people who are coming here during colonization, some of them were outcasts. They didn't, like, they weren't accepted in their society from where they were coming from. So whatever they had acquired in Africa, for them, that was a matter of life and death, holding on to it like their lives literally depended on it. Right. And when Donald Trump talks about him stopping, I feel like it's just an excuse to interfere with South African affairs. And I'm glad on this one, I'm glad that the South African president seeing what he is doing. Exactly. And the president stood up and told him, it's not gonna happen. And I'm so happy because normally the president of South Africa and the opposition leader, that is Julius Malema, they usually don't see eye to eye, but on this one they see eye to eye, and I'm happy about that. Right, they won't be caught unaware. Yeah. My question is, what is brother Musk, Elon Musk, what is he planning? What is that African American Elon Musk planning? He claims to be African American. Yeah. Guys, you know, I feel like it's just bad news everywhere. It's just bad news. You know that bad smell that just can't seem to leave you alone? You turn this way, you feel that bad smell, you can't see where it's coming from. That is him. And Trump, I feel like he found his crowd with that African American friend of his. Because I feel like to some extent they're like very similar, one and the same. They're like different sides of the same coin. And I don't know, guys, this is just my speculation. I don't know. South Africans, you can please just go along with it and tell me if I have a reason to think like this or not. I do feel like maybe you know, where people like Elon Musk, they have power, they would, if they want anything, they get it. I do feel like maybe, just maybe, sometime in future, Elon Musk might want to come to Africa to vie for a South African seat so that he can give the white people in South Africa a leg up, but most importantly, be in charge of a crowd somewhere. Because in America, he will never be their president. That's just a fact. So maybe he's gonna be helped by his buddy over in America to take over South Africa and finally put the black people in their place. But that's just a thought, guys. Yeah, and then, guys, let's just remember, there's a lady who was talking about Orania and how, like, I know you can't skip the fact that there's some, you know, palm-colored people in South Africa who are really happy about this situation, because for them, they feel like they'll get to keep their lands, like their lands will be safe from seizure. Yeah, and so you ask yourself, you know, I feel like already South Africa is in danger, being that they have an all-white exclusive neighborhoods like Orania, as if that's not dangerous enough. There's also another one called Fontaine, if I'm not wrong. And as if that is not bad enough, you also have to worry about foreigners like the very famous Phil Craig, who came from all the way from Britain, wasn't even born in South Africa, just came into South Africa as a visitor, immigrant, demanding rights. Oh, Western Cape should be divided, this, that, and the other. They're like the perfect seed of creating division in South Africa. Right. But guys, let us know what you think about this episode on the comment section. Yeah, this is a drama that we are willing to watch and see where it goes. But I most definitely do feel like if these people are starting to pay attention to South Africa the way they're doing this right now, they're setting South Africa up for failure when it comes to something. Because right now, it's not only that. Right now, it seems like South Africa has started just fighting battles. Because you see now, the Rwandan president was wanted to invade South Africa, or was claiming he was ready to fight South Africa because of Congo, and because they're accusing each other of interfering with Congolese matters. Now they want to fight each other. Like, come on, Africa, we don't need to be doing what the Caucasus people are doing right now, fighting each other.
Right. And anyway, guys, I think we'll just leave it there, because I feel like Trump is feeling very powerful to the extent where he feels like he can interfere with the political situations in every country. He's attacking China, busy attacking Canada, wanting to colonize Greenland, you know. So I'm like, in the whole of Africa, like, obviously you've made it clear you don't like Africa, but why are you poke-nosing? Anyway, I'm happy that Africans are taking this positively, and they're like, if you sanction our countries, if you stop aid from our countries, well, this is good. It's time Africa learns to stand up for itself. Exactly, they're looking at it positively, you know.
Yeah, because, you know, I also heard on TikTok there was a professor an African professor who was saying that around the same time America started helping African countries, it was also helping countries like China and Japan and all those Asian countries after the war, World War II. But when you see right now where we are at, China was able to stand up to such a place that it can also render help to other countries in need. But Africa has never stood up. Why is that? I feel like with America ending its aid packages to Africa, Africans will be able to now stand up for themselves because of necessity. Necessity will force them to find this information they've not been able to find for some reason, to make our way. Right.
Anyway, guys, let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. As usual, we want to thank you so much for joining us on this one.
And we'll see you on our next episode.
Right.